I have a confession to make. I
Fine.
had a very specific plan for this morning. It was a good plan. I was going to wake up at 6, go for a 3-mile run, make a kale smoothie, and, be at my desk fully caffeinated, ready to crush my inbox by 8
Let
a.m.
me guess. That is not what happened.
Not even close. I hit snooze until 7:7.
Mm.
I ate a bagel standing over the sink like a goblin.
Mm-hmm.
And then I spent the first 30 minutes of my workday doom scrolling. And honestly, the whole time I had this voice in my head just screaming, why are you like this? Why can't you just do the thing?
The universal human struggle. It really is.
It feels like it. It feels like some people, the type, the marathoners, the ones who alphabetize their spice racks, they have this magical discipline software installed.
Okay.
And I'm running on Windows 95. I crash every time I try to open a spreadsheet.
Well, that feeling, that suspicion that you're just fundamentally wired wrong is exactly why I wanted to talk about today's book. It's called The Power of Discipline by Daniel Walter.
Okay.
And the reason I like Walter's approach is that he basically says, your software isn't broken, you just don't know how to code.
Which is a relief, I guess. But I have to be skeptical for a second. Is this just another one of those, like, rah-rah, believe in yourself books? Because if the answer is just try harder, I might actually scream.
No, and that's why we're covering it. Walter is extremely pragmatic. He doesn't see discipline as some mystical trait you're born with. He treats it as a mechanism.
A mechanism?
Yeah, a mix of your biological wiring, these weird psychological loopholes, and very specific systems.
So our mission today is to, basically take the brain apart and see why the gears are grinding.
That is the plan. We're going to look at the neuroscience of why you procrastinate, the psychological traps that keep you lazy, and then, and this is my favorite part, we're going to look at the Navy SEAL standard of mental toughness.
The Navy SEAL standard. Okay, let's start with the biology. Because when I see my sister, who never misses a workout, I genuinely believe she has a discipline gene. Are you telling me Walter thinks that's a myth?
It is a complete myth.
Yeah.
Walter starts by breaking down the brain. You have roughly 100 billion neurons up there.
100 billion.
And every thought, every action is just a specific pattern of those neurons firing. He points to fMRI studies that show when people make good long-term choices, like, choosing the salad over the pizza, specific regions of the brain light up.
Okay, but doesn't that prove my point? If my brain doesn't light up when I look at a salad, aren't I at a biological disadvantage?
In the short term, maybe. But you're missing the most important concept in the entire book, neuroplasticity.
Break that down for us.
Okay, think of your brain like a dense forest. If you walk the same path every single day, let's call it the hitting snooze path. You trample down the grass, the dirt gets packed, it becomes a wide, easy highway.
The path of least resistance.
Exactly. Your neurons fire effortlessly in that pattern.
And the path of going for a run is covered in thorns and boulders because I haven't walked it since 2019.
Precisely. So when you try to take that new path, it's physically difficult. Your brain resists. But, and this is the key, the brain is plastic. It's moldable.
It can change.
If you force yourself to hack through those thorns enough times, eventually that becomes the highway. Walter's whole argument is that the disciplined person wasn't born with a clear path. They just spent years clearing it.
So discipline isn't a ghost in the machine, it's just construction work.
It's physical architecture.
Yeah.
We've known this for a long time. You can't talk about discipline without bringing up the famous Stanford marshmallow experiment.
Oh, right. The one where they torment toddlers with snacks.
Essentially, yes. They put a child in a room with one marshmallow. The researcher says, you can eat this now, but if you wait 15 minutes until I come back, I'll give you 2 marshmallows.
Which, let's be honest, is a terrible deal. I'd eat the marshmallow immediately.
And a lot of them did. But here's the kicker. They tracked those kids for 40 years.
40 years?
And the kids who could delay gratification, who could just sit there and stare at the marshmallow, they ended up with significantly better life outcomes. Better SAT scores, lower BMI, better jobs.
See, that's actually depressing. It sounds like destiny. If I was the kid who ate the marshmallow, am I just doomed to be mediocre?
That is the common fear. But Walter argues that while the tendency might be there early on, the skill is learnable. The problem is that most of us try to learn it using the wrong tool. We use brute force.
Just gritting our teeth and saying, I will not eat the cookie.
Right. And that almost always fails. This brings us to a concept called willpower fatigue. This is crucial.
Willpower fatigue.
Yeah, drawing on the work of psychologist Roy Baumeister. You have to stop thinking of willpower as a character trait and start thinking of it like the battery on your phone.
I like that. So I wake up at 100%.
Hopefully. But every single decision you make drains that energy. And not just big decisions. I mean, every decision. What shirt should I wear? Should I answer this email? Don't yell at that guy who cut me off.
So every little act of self-control is just leaking battery power.
Yes. It's literally consuming glucose in your prefrontal cortex.
Right.
So by 5 p.m., you aren't a bad person for wanting pizza. You're just a battery at 10% in low power mode.
And that's why I order the pizza.
Exactly. You physically don't have the energy left to resist.
This explains so much. It's why I feel like Superman at 9 a.m. and a gremlin at 7 p.m. But if the battery drains no matter what, how do we fix it? Do we just need a bigger battery?
Yeah, you need willpower protection. This is the real insight here. Truly disciplined people don't have more willpower than you.
They don't.
They just use it less often. They design their lives so they don't have to say no.
Okay, give me a concrete example.
The classic one Walter uses is grocery shopping. If you go to the store when you're hungry and tired, you're fighting a biological war with a depleted battery. You're in the chip aisle trying to use willpower. You will lose.
So the discipline isn't resisting the chips. The discipline is eating a snack before you leave the house.
Precisely. Or take your phone. If you're trying to work and your phone is on your desk, you are spending a tiny micro amount of willpower every few seconds to not look at it.
Oh, that's so true.
Over an hour, that drains you. So, put the phone in the other room.
Remove the option.
If the phone is gone, you don't use any willpower to ignore it. You preserve that energy for the actual work. It's not about being stronger. It's about being smarter.
I love that. You're basically rigging the game so you can't lose.
Yeah.
But okay, even if I rig the game, I hide the phone, I eat the snack, I still feel this massive internal resistance when I try something new. My brain is actively fighting me.
That's because your brain is fighting you. And this moves us from biology into psychology. Walter highlights a few cognitive biases that are basically saboteurs living in your head. The biggest one is the status quo bias.
Which is just a fancy way of saying we hate change.
It's deeper than that.
Yeah.
Your brain's #1 priority isn't happiness or success.
It's survival.
It's survival. And the current state, even if you're out of shape and stressed, is safe. You're alive right now, so your brain looks at the status quo and says, this works. We're not dead. Let's not rock the boat.
So when I try to start a new routine, like going to the gym, my brain sees that as a potential threat.
Yes. It screams unknown territory, danger. That dread you feel isn't just laziness. It's an evolutionary safety mechanism. And it's protected by another bias, loss aversion.
The idea that we hate losing things more than we like gaining them.
Correct. Losing the comfort of your warm bed feels like a real, immediate loss. The gain of being fit in 6 months, that's abstract, imaginary. Your brain will always fight to keep the concrete comfort.
That makes perfect sense. But there was one other bias he mentioned that really hit me hard. I think I've been guilty of this my whole life. The Dunning-Kruger effect.
Ah, yes. Usually we hear about that with intelligence, incompetent people thinking they're geniuses.
Right, the guy who thinks he knows more than the doctor because he read one blog post.
Exactly. But Walter applies this to self-control. And the application is, well, fascinating. The Dunning-Kruger effect suggests that beginners overestimate their ability because they don't know what they don't know.
Okay.
In the context of discipline, this means people with very low self-control often believe they have high self-control.
Wait, really? I would have assumed they'd know they're struggling.
Not always.
Yeah.
Think about the person who says, oh, I can keep a pack of cigarettes in the drawer just for emergencies. Or I can work with Netflix on in the background. I'm great at multitasking.
Oh, I am definitely the I can work with the TV on person.
And that's the trap. You're overestimating your ability to resist distraction. You're unaware of your own incompetence when it comes to discipline. And Walter points out that the true experts, the people we see as machines, are actually the most humble.
How?
They know how weak they are. They know that if they put the cookies on the counter, they will eat them. So they don't buy the cookies.
They know if the TV is on, they'll get distracted.
So they unplug the TV. They don't test themselves.
Wow. That's such a paradox. The disciplined person assumes they have no discipline, so they build a system to protect themselves. The lazy person assumes they have great discipline, so they rely on willpower and fail every time.
That is it in a nutshell. Humility is the secret weapon. If you assume you will fail, you prepare better.
Okay, so let's assume I'm humble now. I know my brain's trying to sabotage me. I know my willpower battery is leaky. Why should I go through the pain of fixing this, aside from just getting more work done?
It goes way beyond productivity. One of the most compelling arguments in the book is about social connection.
Which sounds counterintuitive. We think of the disciplined guy as the boring one who leaves the party early.
Maybe. But think about trust. Trust is built on consistency. If you tell a friend, I'll help you move on Saturday at 8, and you show up at 8, you're disciplined. If you show up at 10 or bail because you're not feeling it, that's a lack of discipline.
So being a reliable friend or partner is actually a discipline issue.
Absolutely. Impulse control is what keeps you from snapping at your spouse when you're tired. Walter argues that disciplined people have deeper relationships because they're safe to be around. You know what you're going to get.
That makes total sense. He also mentioned being unoffendable, which I thought was interesting.
This connects to resilience. People with high discipline tend to separate data from emotion. If someone criticizes their work, they think, okay, is this true? Can I use this to improve?
It's just information.
It's just information for a long-term goal. Whereas someone lacking discipline might just spiral into, they hate me, I'm terrible.
They react to the short-term pain.
Exactly. And that leads to the biggest benefit of all. Confidence. Walter makes a great point here. Confidence isn't a personality trait. It's a reputation you have with yourself.
I love that line, a reputation with yourself.
If you constantly break promises to yourself, I'll work out tomorrow, I'll save money, you stop trusting yourself. Your internal reputation is trash. But when you say you'll do something and you actually do it, you build self-trust. That's all confidence is.
All right, I want that. I want the self-trust, the focus. How do we build this? The listener is thinking, okay, give me the manual.
It starts with automation. Taking the decision out of the equation. You don't decide to brush your teeth right, you just do it. Walter leans heavily on two pillars, the morning and the evening.
Let's start with the morning. He talks about the before 8 a.m. rule.
He does. He looked at figures like Obama, Oprah, CEOs. The common thread is they control the morning. Walter suggests two specific habits before the chaos of the day can hijack you.
Habit 1 was meditation or prayer.
And this goes back to the battery. Stress drains willpower. If you start your day looking at email or the news, you are flooding your system with cortisol. You're draining your battery before you even get out of bed. Meditation preserves that energy.
And habit 2 was reading.
Even just for 15 minutes. It sets a tone of growth rather than reaction. Most of us start the day just reacting to other people's agendas. Reading puts you back in charge.
But you can't have a good morning if you have a terrible night.
And this is where the battle is actually won, the final hour. Walter is adamant about turning off digital devices, but the refrain here is how he talks about sleep.
This really stuck with me. He doesn't frame sleep as rest.
No, he frames sleep as a productivity tool. If you're sleep deprived, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain for discipline and impulse control, is the first thing to shut down. It effectively goes offline.
So trying to be disciplined on 4 hours of sleep is like trying to run Photoshop on a computer with no RAM.
It's physically impossible.
Yeah.
You aren't hustling by staying up late. You are sabotaging your brain's ability to function the next day. Sleep is weapon maintenance.
He also touched on organization. Clean your room isn't just something your mom says.
It's about cognitive load. If your desk is messy, your brain is constantly processing that visual chaos in the background, that wrapper, that stack of papers. It drains energy. A clear space preserves processing power for what matters.
Okay, so let's say I do all this. I've automated the morning, I'm protecting my sleep, I'm feeling good. But let's be real. Sometimes automation isn't enough. Right. Eventually you hit a wall, you're in the middle of a run or a project, and it just hurts. Your brain is screaming, "Stoppy!" What then?
This is the crucial pivot. This is where we go from habits to mental toughness. And to explain this, Walter brings in the big guns, the Navy SEALs.
The 40% rule.
This is my favorite concept in the whole book. The rule states, when your mind tells you that you are completely done, exhausted, and cannot take another step, you are actually only at 40% of your potential.
Only 40%. That seems mathematically impossible. When I feel done, I feel done. I'm not faking it.
It feels like 100% because your brain has a governor. Like on a car engine. A sports car can go 150 miles per hour, but the factory might put a governor on it that cuts the fuel at 80.
To play it safe. To prevent the engine from overheating.
Exactly. So your brain is sending you pain and fatigue signals way before you're actually in danger. It's a safety buffer. Your brain is saying, hey, this is uncomfortable. Let's stop now while we have plenty of reserves.
And the Navy SEALs train themselves to recognize that voice.
Not as a command, but as a suggestion.
So that voice saying, I can't do another rep or I can't write another page, that's a lie.
It's a feeling, not a fact. And this is so important for you listening. When you hit that wall, you have to realize that you have a massive reserve tank you haven't even touched yet.
But how do you access it? It's one thing to know it's there.
You have to prove the governor wrong. Just once, you push past the discomfort to 41%. Then, next time, 45%. It's about expanding your tolerance for discomfort. If you always stop when it first hurts, your governor never adjusts.
But if you push, your brain realizes, oh, we didn't die, we can go further.
And suddenly, what used to feel impossible becomes your warm-up. And that brings us full circle.
It really does. It's a complete ecosystem.
It is. We started with biology understanding we can rewire the brain. We talk about psychology fighting that status quo bias and the Dunning-Kruger trap.
We built the systems, the morning routine, protecting our willpower.
And finally, we have the mindset, the 40% rule. Knowing that the pain is just information, not a stop sign.
And if I can add one final thought, because I think a lot of people hear discipline and they think prison. They think it means a life of no fun.
That's the biggest misconception. Walter's message is the exact opposite. Discipline is freedom.
Explain that.
Think about it. If you lack discipline with your money, you're a slave to debt. You have no options. If you lack discipline with your health, you're trapped in a body that can't do what you want it to.
If you lack discipline with your time, you're constantly stressed and rushing.
Yes. Discipline buys you freedom. It buys you the financial freedom to travel, the physical freedom to hike a mountain, the mental freedom to enjoy your evening without guilt. The lack of discipline, that's the real cage.
That is a powerful place to leave it. Discipline isn't the cage, it's the key.
It's the key.
So here is your challenge for the week. We talked about the status quo bias or love for safety, and we talked about the 40% rule. I want you to look at one area of your life where you think you've hit your limit, where you think, I just can't do any better. And ask yourself, is that your actual limit? Or is that just your governor kicking in at 40%?
Go find that extra 60%.
Thanks for diving deep with us. I'll see you next time.